to start today's session off with a question. And the question is this: what do you believe is the biggest challenge in today's business or organisations? Staff, people. Anything else? Anybody else want to talk about biggest challenges we have? Okay, so for the first time in human history, the pace of change is outweighing our ability to actually understand it. So I want to talk about leadership and particularly around change and why it's more important today than in any other time in human history. Jack Welch said, if the rate of change on the outset exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. Only 1 in 3 UK managers say they feel confident leading their team through change. So what's that got to do with leadership? So that's what I want to talk about next. First of all, hi, I'm James Fleming. I'm the Managing Director of the Power Within Training. I'm also the co-founder. And I'm going to talk about a leadership framework that I believe is the framework for the 21st century leadership. And more importantly, leading with trust, inspiration, and innovation. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And that leadership is called Motivational Intelligence. Has anybody heard of Motivational Intelligence before? No, we've all heard of it. Yep, you heard of it? Star pupil. So we've all heard of IQ and EQ, which are really important, particularly EQ in leadership training. But the latest research in neuroscience and cognitive psychology says there's something else going on. And that is our ability to motivate ourselves and others by managing negative thoughts and self-limiting beliefs in order to overcome obstacles in life. So I'm going to give you a quick example of that. So I'm going to choose one of the gentlemen here at the front. So imagine you've got an employee, right, and you're giving them really clear directions on what you want them to do. So you're saying, I want you to do this and I would like you to do that. And for most of us, they go away. They always have an excuse why things don't get done. It's time, I'm too busy. But what's actually going on is something in here. So in their head they're saying, we've always done it this way. Why do I want to change? What if I can't do it? Or, more importantly, before they joined you, they may have had a really negative manager who always pointed fingers and always placed blame. So they're quite frightened to put their head above the parapet. We've all experienced that, haven't we? Yeah. So I'm going to ask another question. Why do you think it's really important as leaders that we are able to motivate ourselves and others by managing and identifying negative thoughts and self-limiting beliefs in order to overcome obstacles? Why do you think it's really important as leaders that we need to know that? No? To identify. Fantastic. So, the human mind, right, is negative biased. Right? About 80% of our thoughts that we have all day, every day, is negative, and only 20% are positive. So our brains are wired negative bias to protect us, evolution. So they're wired to actually protect us. So what happens is you go to an employee and you are giving them information, you're telling them what you do, you've got this new change initiative, this new HR policy, and they're just sitting thinking, why the hell do I want to do that? What's wrong with what we do now? So if you're able to know that pushback, by asking the right questions, you can start to change their mindset. And that's called influencing someone's dominant thoughts and beliefs. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So, the urgent need for really great leadership. Now these are statistics I got when I was building this presentation. They're pretty new. In fact, they're actually outdated when you think about the speed of change. So 79% of leave their jobs due of lack of appreciation. 82% of new managers receive no formal leadership training. And only 18% of managers consistently lead effectively. Now, these statistics tell us something. The world is woefully short of really good leaders. And if you don't believe me, just look at our politics. Look at the people around us, the people in our businesses and organisations. Yeah? We need great leaders, not good leaders. We need great leaders. Think about the new generation, Gen Z coming through. People don't want the same things in life as they did 15, 20, 30 years ago. People want to feel part of something. And that is what Motivational Intelligence leadership is all about. Now, there is a cost to poor leadership. Anybody want to have a go? What's the major cost to a business or organisation with poor leadership?
Retention. Staff are going to be leaving. They're not happy. Yeah.
Absolutely. So poor leadership reduces productivity by 20%. Disengagement today in the UK costs 450 to 500 billion pounds, and 67% of UK workers have left or are considering leaving their jobs because of poor leadership or management. I mean, they are frightening statistics. Another statistic for you is the University of Strathclyde in Scotland did a study, and they asked the top 35 businesses. It was a survey done around employee engagement and things like that. And what that study, a direct correlation from that study, was people who are unhappy at work live a less healthy and longevity of life. In other words, if you're happy, you live longer. If you're unhappy at work, then life is shortened. Wow. So in my opinion, that is a huge burden on leaders, and we have got to address that. We've got to make sure we're building a place for people to feel psychologically safe, able to take risks and move forward, particularly when you think about AI and change. The world is changing faster than we can even comprehend it. Another question, you notice I like asking questions. What is it we all want from our personal and professional lives? Come on, don't let me down now. What is it we want from our personal and professional lives? What's the thing that we all crave for? To be happy, satisfied and purposeful. Yeah, sense of belonging. Anyone else? Every time I walk away, I've got to reconnect this. We all want to feel successful and happy. That's what everybody wants from life. Yeah? But whether it's our personal and professional lives. We all want to feel that feeling of part of something. Now, that only happens when your outcomes and your expectations align. So when your outcomes and expectations are aligned, you start to achieve your goals in life, whether that's personal or professional. Agree? Yeah? Now, what is it we have to do to make our outcomes and expectations align? What's the thing that we have to do? We've got to take action. So, right actions, right results, wrong actions, wrong results. Yeah? What is it that drives your actions? Our thoughts, our dominant thoughts and beliefs. You've all heard the saying, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So think about this. If you've got an employee or even a leader who has a set of dominant thoughts and beliefs about his team or his business, do you think he's going to take the right actions, or do you think he's going to take the wrong actions? Absolutely the wrong actions. So I want to tell a little story. You probably noticed a little cigarette has come up here. So I want to tell a quick story. So, sorry, what's your name? I'm going to use it. What's your name? Harry. So Harry is a 20 cigarettes a day. I'm not saying you are Harry. So Harry's a 20 cigarettes a day smoker. And he's been smoking for the last 35 years. And he's coughing and he's hacking and his lungs are just in bits. And he goes to the doctors. And the doctor says, Harry, if you don't stop smoking, it's going to kill you. So Harry's thinking to himself, oh, I knew this was going to happen. So Harry gets his packet. This is the cigarettes, but this is the packet of cigarettes. He walks out the doctor's office and he gets the cigarettes and he scrunches them up. He throws them in the bin. And he says, that's it. I'm going to smoke. Then Harry jumps in the car to drive home. So first of all, where has Harry stopped smoking? Has he stopped smoking at the action level, or has he stopped smoking at the thoughts and beliefs level? Action. He's threw the cigarettes away. So here's what I'm going to carry on. So he jumps in the car, and then he's sitting in the car and he's like, oh, I love a cigarette when I'm driving. And he gets home and he says to his wife, I've got really bad news. The doctor's just told me that my lungs are in bits and I have to stop smoking. So he chucked the cigarettes. She says, like we do in the UK, you want a wee cup of tea, son? Cup of tea fixes everything. So she pours me a cup of tea and he's sitting saying to himself, I love a cigarette when I'm having a cup of tea. Cigarette, 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 cigarette. And by the way, that's how most people struggle to give up smoking. It's because they're still thinking about the cigarette. They've gave up at the action, but they haven't given up at the thoughts and beliefs. They've still got this dominant thought and belief. I like a cigarette. I like a cigarette in the morning. I like a cigarette when I'm driving. Yeah? That's their dominant thought and belief. And your thoughts and beliefs drive your actions. So that's why most people can give up cigarettes for a short period of time, but they're thinking about it all the time. So what do? A week later, oh, just have a wee cigarette. So that's what's happening at the thoughts and beliefs level. But that's quite a crude example of how our brains work. But whether we like it or not, it's like that in our businesses and organisations every single day. Yeah, the people in our business organisation, they need us to help them grow and develop, and we only do that by asking really good questions. Now this is where managers focus. So a manager focuses on here, the actions and skills. Managers tell and managers direct. Now another question before we move on. Would you agree that you can be a leader at any level of the business or organisation? You don't need a title. What is leadership? When you think about leadership, what is it? It's our ability to influence people, influence their dominant thoughts and beliefs. That's all leadership is. Yeah? So leadership lies here. That's where leaders focus, on the thoughts and beliefs. And leaders do that by asking great questions of themselves and of others. Yeah? Confucius said, tell me and I will forget. Show me and I will remember. Involve me and I will understand. This was said 2,500 years ago and it is still true today. But we're not learning from it. Think about, most leaders think they've got to know everything. And in fact, it's the exact opposite. If a leader tells someone what they need to do and how they need to do it, who owns that? Does the leader own it or does the person own it? Yeah? So we need to be really careful of the language that we use. Telling people, tell me, and I will forget. Your dominant thoughts and beliefs drive your actions. Your actions dictate your results in life. It's all cause and effect. You've all heard the saying, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's the same with your dominant thoughts and beliefs. So we need to be really, really careful as leaders what language we're using. I call it leadership communication. So leadership communication is asking great questions. Management communication is telling and directing. Now, I don't know about you, but I would much prefer a leader that involves me so that I understand, that constantly tells me what it is I've got to do. Would you agree? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to jump back to motivational intelligence. And these are the 4 pillars of motivational intelligence framework that I have designed and developed for the 21st century leader. So first of all, we have vision. Why do you think vision is really important to leadership development? We've got to enable people to see where we're going. Now, Simon Sinek says this really well. He says, if you want your employees to go in a certain direction, tell them the bloody hell where you're going. Let them know where you're going. And I think for most people, if I ask most people, and we have asked a lot of people, what's your vision? Most of them will try and recite the vision of their company. And most people actually don't know it. They'll go with their phones. So if you don't know what that vision is, how the hell are you supposed to be on track? Now, when I talk about vision, I'm talking about your vision. I'm talking about your team's vision. How do they align? What is their vision for the future? What do they want to have happen in 12, 24 or 36 months from now? That is a great place to start, because vision is the triggering mechanism of MQ. Helen Keller said, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. What she's saying here, does anybody know who Helen Keller is? No? Yeah. So Helen Keller, at the age of 18 months old, contracted meningitis, and she lost her sight and she lost her hearing. And then she went on to be this incredible female empowerment around the world, basically. Our second pillar is called potential, or as we call it at the Power Within, unlimited potential. Now, a lot of people get this wrong. When I explain to people about we all have unlimited potential, this is what tends to happen. Well, wait a minute here, James. So you're telling me that I have unlimited potential? Yes. So I can be a world-class athlete or a professional football player. For most of us here today, that ship's probably sailed, right? What we are talking about when we talk about unlimited potential is, can you be better tomorrow than you are today? Can the people in your business or organisation be better tomorrow than they are today? That's unlimited potential, and you've got to believe it. You've got to be setting those expectations. A person's potential is like an infinite reservoir. The more you draw upon it, the more it reveals itself. Our third pillar of MQ is adaptability. Now, as human beings, we are the only animal species that have the power of adaptability and change. We're the only animal species in the whole of the world that has the ability to adjust, adapt, and change. Charles Darwin once said, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor is it most intelligent. It is the one that's the most adaptable to change. And that's why adaptability is one of our pillars. You've got to be able to adjust and adapt, particularly when we think about change. The rate of change is, as I said at the start, it's way beyond our own even ability to understand it. Now, that's just when you think about technology. Now, think about the people in our business and organisations. They want different things. Yeah? And the final pillar of success is called responsibility. Now, I'm going to go back to something we quickly talked about earlier on, about responsibility or ultimate responsibility. If I tell you what to do I own it or do you own it? If I'm going to tell you I would like you to do this, who owns it? Me. Exactly. However, if I ask you, so tell me what's the problem? What exactly should we do about it? And you give me a suggestion, I go, I think that's a great idea. Who owns it, me or you? There you go. And that's why responsibility is critical. Yeah? We've got to own it. We've got to say what we're going to do. We've got to own it, and that's why responsibility is our fourth and final pillar. W. Clement Stone said this: the rate of the pack is always defined by the pace of the leader. What am I saying or not saying that my team think this is okay? Don't point fingers, don't place blame. We have to learn to self-reflect as leaders. Yeah? Because what happens in any business or organisation, now remember, leadership can be both positive and negative. You can have negative people in your business, naysayers, right? And it's normally the person with the loudest voice that tends to dominate, and that can be a really negative leadership style. So we've got to be really careful of the behaviours that we are showing the people in our business or organisation. For example, if I'm always pointing fingers and placing blame, what are you going to do as an employee? Point fingers and place blame. If I won't get out of my comfort zone as a leader, what right have I got to ask you to get out of your comfort zone? Yeah? The rate of the pack is always defined by the pace of the leader. Okay, we're getting near the end of the presentation now. We're bang on time, and that's great. So people will never adopt a new idea, best practice or change unless three things happen first. The first thing that's got to happen is they've got to think it's a good idea. They've got to think it's a good idea. Now when we try to implement change and we speak to most people, now they might sit and suggest, nod their head, but inside they might be saying something completely different. And how do you think we change somebody's mind? By asking really good questions. We've got star people here now. By asking really good questions. The second thing that has to happen is they need to believe that they're capable of the results. And how do we do that? Asking really good questions. Fantastic. And third, people have got to have buy-in. They've got to understand what is in it for me. Now, once these three things happen, through asking really good questions of the people in your business and team, change is inevitable. Not a maybe, it's inevitable, because people will own it. Make sense? Fantastic. Now, I think I've got a wee video. We've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to play a quick video of this really handsome Scottish guy. You might recognise him.
Why is leading change more important than ever before? Jack Welch once said, "Change before you have to." The most successful leaders don't wait for the storm. They learn to read the wind. They understand that the key to staying relevant isn't just about keeping up, it's about setting the pace for the future. Take a moment and think about businesses that have lasted 50 years or more. They don't look anything like they did when they first started. They adapted, they innovated, they dared to let go of what was to create what could be. Now, consider those that didn't make it. Real household names that vanished off the face of the earth. The giants that crumbled. But what happened? They stood still. They clung onto their comfort zone, forgetting that comfort, well, that is the slowest form of failure. As Grace Hopper once warned, the most dangerous phrase in the English language is, but we've always done it that way. Leadership isn't about preserving the past, but it's about building the future. And the biggest battle that you'll ever fight isn't with a competition, it's with your internal resistance to change. Because here's the truth. Used to be's don't make honey. The ones that keep moving forward, keep seeking and keeping evolving, well, they will thrive. Sure, you might get it wrong, but I would rather be wrong and learn and do absolutely nothing and stand still. You see, true leadership is all about your vision, is being able to see the unseen, believing in what other people might dismiss, and crafting a roadmap towards a future that doesn't yet exist. John Maxwell once said, change is inevitable, but growth, well, that's optional. So ask yourself this. How will you grow? How will you anticipate the change within your business and your team? You know what? Great leaders, they don't wait for change to knock on your door. They open the door before it arrives. They don't fear uncertainty. They have learned to harness it. They don't react. They anticipate. They don't ask, what if change happens? They ask, what if we don't? You hold the remote control to change. If the picture in front of you isn't the future that you want for your business or your team, change the bloody channel. Change isn't the enemy, it's the currency of progress. It's the price of staying ahead. And when the time comes, you don't want to be scrambling to catch up. You want and need to be leading the way. Because too soon and too often is way better than too late and not enough. Jim Rohn once said, life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. At the core of every transformation is your why, is the spark that fuels the fire of change for your business, your team, and more importantly, for yourself. And in the end, you can have success or you can have excuses, but you cannot have both. Now the question is this: will you wait for change to happen to you, or will you be the one that leads the change?
Did you enjoy that video? So too soon and too often is better than too late and not enough. We are now at the end of the presentation. I'm open for any questions. You'll also notice on some of the chairs there's little leaflets and that around motivational intelligence, and I will also be around today. Any questions? No? Thank you so much for your being here today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the Glasgow dulcet tones. Thank you.